here's Ed Bernstein.
Hi, I recently caught up with presidential candidate and Senator Rand Paul here in Las Vegas. Here's a little bit of that interview. So, Senator, why is Nevada important to you?
Well, I think a lot of people came out west, Nevada included, to come for freedom, trying to get away from religious persecution. Some just wanted to get away from big government. But I think there are a lot of people out here who are independent-minded, free-spirited, and really don't want a big government in Washington telling them what to do.
You spent a lot of time here. Your father also spent a lot of time here, and now it's an early primary caucus state. And does that weigh into your factor?
I think a caucus state also helps us because we have hardworking, really committed supporters, and that's what it takes to organize and get people out for a caucus. It's not quite as simple as a primary. It's also a smaller crowd, and so the more committed people can really influence the election.
Like your father, you are both physicians, and you both have essentially left the medical practice to get into politics. What was motivating that decision?
Well, I still do some medicine. I usually do a charity trip at least once a year. I was in Haiti in August and did some cataract surgery down there. I was in Guatemala last year. And then each year I usually do some charity surgery in Kentucky. So I do miss medicine, and I did a lot of training to become an eye surgeon. And what really motivated me, I think, was really that I was worried about the country. I kept seeing Republican administrations making government bigger, and then Democrat administrations even doing worse. But both sides seem to be accumulating so much money and so much debt that I kind of got caught up when the Tea Party started around 2008, 2009, and the Tea Party were mostly people that were worried about the country accumulating so much debt, and that neither side needed to be willing to cut the spending.
Your father was a big influence in that regard?
Maybe not in deciding to do it, in influence in the sense that I followed my dad around since I was a little kid. I probably listened to 10,000 speeches. I was one of his biggest fans, and still am. But so an influence that way, an influence intellectually in the sense that I read all the free market economists and learned about the ideas of liberty from Hayek and Mises and Adam Smith and Milton Friedman and all of the great leaders, intellectually leaders for smaller government. And that influenced sort of my intellectual bearing. And then finally what kind of got me going was just that I thought it was getting out of control, and I needed to be part of trying to help the country.
Nevada recently passed medical marijuana law. I know that you've been an advocate of allowing medical marijuana in states that permit it. Does that have to do with your constitutional leanings, or is it as an ophthalmologist, you've seen some of the results that glaucoma and medical marijuana is?
I would say it's more than anything else an advocacy for freedom and for leaving people alone. The science of whether or not medical marijuana works for certain conditions, whether it's seizures or nausea or wasting diseases or sleep, all of those things I think need to be studied. And one thing we've done with making marijuana Schedule I is we pretty much, which is like a narcotic schedule, it's prevented research on it. So I'm all for opening that up. And also, if you have MS or some kind of disease that marijuana seems to help you, why would the government tell you you can't use that? Or if your child has 200 seizures a day, why would the government tell you you can't use cannabis oil for that? So I don't want the government getting involved with preventing you from making decisions with regard to your health care.
So you would be an advocate of the banks, for instance, federal banks,
yes.
FDIC.
I'm a co-sponsor of that bill to allow the banks to handle money from people who are in legitimate marijuana business, as well as changing the tax code as well to allow them to deduct their normal expenses like any other business.
And how do you balance running for the Senate and running for president at the same time? Is that a difficult task?
It's a lot of work. I mean, I try to be there every week in Washington to vote as much as I can. I have a 99% voting record, and I'm proud of that. And then I try to travel the country as well, so it is a daunting task.
And one more question. Nuclear waste has been an issue in Nevada for a long time. What's your position on that?
You know, I think what would be great is if it could be a win-win situation. If it were me, I would say, well, what are you going to pay me? If you want to store waste on my land, what are you going to pay me? So I think if it could be a deal such that people in Nevada wanted it because they were getting paid to store the nation's waste, probably could work out. I don't know all the specifics of what they've offered or how it's being offered, but I do think that states should be in control of their land. So for example, a lot of the federal land that is in Nevada, I would turn over to the state. If I could, I'd probably write a piece of paper and say, Governor of Nevada, sign here, it's yours. And let the states make these determinations on what they want to do.
Okay. And finally, one day you will either not be a senator or not be a president. Would you go back to being a physician?
Yeah, I'm excited actually about doing. That's why I continue to practice and keep my surgical skills up, because that was my first passion and love as an occupation, was being a surgeon, and I'm going to go back at some point.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Okay.
Accidents are never planned. That's why we created the Ed Bernstein Free Accident Fund.
Oh my God! Don't worry, Grandma. I have the Ed Bernstein app. I know what to do.
So you can be prepared.
Enough said. Call Ed. EdBernstein.com.